Hello students, I'm making this video on Saturday, September 6th, 2025. I'm walking down a street in Hollywood. It's pretty close to Hollywood Boulevard, where Chinese theater is, all that stuff. It's called Vista, or maybe it's North Vista. Anyway, giving the dog a little walk before I drive back to San Diego. This is the introduction to the video lecture about current stuff with the movie industry, current stuff about films, current stuff about movies, however you want to call it. This is the second video. By now you should have watched the first video, which is a history of movies. This is the current stuff. And little interstitial videos that you see will be me walking Rerun. Where is he? Rerun! Rerun is getting me all twisted up. Me walking Rerun. That's what I'm doing. Okay, before we start going into current stuff, I want to explain the concept of windowing to you. Most of you probably understand this on some level, but maybe you never had it explained to you like this. Okay, historically, movies would come out and they'd be in the movie theaters first, and they'd stay in the movie theater for a while, and then it would go to like some type of premium subscription cable service like HBO or Showtime, or maybe it would show up in hotels. And then maybe it would show up on home video, VHS, and then we got DVD, then we got Blu-ray, then it goes to like regular cable television, and then it goes to like regular broadcast television. There's a difference between cable television and broadcast television, and streaming is a different thing altogether. Okay. The graphic here, it's, wow, a little bit more than 10 years old, but the concept applies. And what the graphic here, I got this from a book. It shows, how long different windows would last. And this is from, some time ago. So the specifics have changed, but the details are kind of there. So we would call each distribution area a window. And as something moves down the windows, it goes from sort of higher prestige, more expensive, to something that is lower. And you want to maximize your theatrical distribution window, because that is historically in the past where you would make a lot of money. In the past, we would make a lot of money that way. Why is the practice of windowing kind of on the decline? Because of internet. That's kind of a good answer for almost everything in JMS or media studies, because of internet. When a movie comes out, it can be available, pirated legally or illegally, can be available very, very quickly. So it's hard to enforce these windows. And then there used to be geographic windows as well. A movie would open in Europe or Asia before US, or vice versa. And again, if something comes out in Hong Kong, someone's going to rip that thing or, videotape it, and then it's going to be on the streets everywhere. So windowing still exists, but the practice is under great, great debate. There was an experiment with a film called Tower Heist. Yeah, move that down there. I remember this. I remember this movie, Tower Heist, a pretty decent comedy, had some pretty big actors. Maybe some of you still even recognize some of these actors. The idea was that Tower Heist would be available in the cinema and also on some type of streaming service in 2011. 2011 was a long time ago, but that was the idea. We have it available on some streaming service and also in the theaters on the same day. The movie theater owners, I repeat, the people who own the movie theaters, that's a different, slightly different, but related industry from the people who make the movies, the people who own the movie theaters. They said, we are not going to put Tower Heist onto the big screens if you allow people to stream it through the internet at home. We're just not going to put it in the cinema. People who own movie theaters want people to come to the theaters so they can, this is not a joke, this is true. They want to sell you that $20 tub of popcorn or whatever it is. They got all these weird decorative popcorn buckets now. They want to make you buy $8 for a soda. That's where they make their money. They don't make the money necessarily. I mean, they make a little bit of money from ticket sales, but most of that goes back to the studio. So yeah, you have some competing movie industries here. The theater owners would not allow Tower Heist to be released at the same time as it was in the cinema. Now we have some new distribution systems. This has been going on for a long time. COVID really accelerated this. COVID kind of put gasoline on the fire here. Day and date is when something comes out like Tower Heist in the cinema and on streaming at the same time. VOD, we call that video on demand. Okay. VOD is video on demand. some early examples of this were Snowpiercer, a science fiction film, and then The Interview. I'm blanking on the name. James Franco and Seth Rogen. That was those. Yeah, that was a film about comedy about North Korea. There was concern that North Korea was actually going to bomb cinemas showing The Interview. So that's an unusual one. The Interview is an unusual one. But we did have some early experiments with day and date, and it's becoming a little bit more common. Day and date is a simultaneous release. When something is in the theater and video on demand same day, it is called day and date. It is not called simultaneous. Okay. Another thing we're seeing is films making exclusive deals with different streaming services. I listed some here. These things change pretty often and the names change. I think Hulu is now getting folded into Disney Plus. Anyway, but if one of these streaming services can get the exclusive rights for a certain period of time for a certain film or a certain TV show, they can attract consumers. Now, it's hard to talk about film and television totally separately because they're blending so much. That's what I'm doing right here. The Mandalorian, which was actually pretty good, one of the better Star Wars projects of the last several years. Disney Plus has the show Mandalorian, which attracts a great many subscribers to Disney Plus. I was one of those people. It worked for me. I signed up for Disney Plus so I could get Mandalorian, and then just didn't cancel it and realized, oh, look, I can watch the Marvel movies when I want, and all the Star Wars movies. I kind of like to use the Star Wars movies as sort of background noise while I'm doing something. But yeah, here's a kind of an old headline here that Mandalorian was very, very successful in helping Disney Plus attract subscribers. Now, during COVID, this was just a few years ago, this is when everyone was kind of like freaked out. The movies are closed, people can't go to the cinemas, streaming services invest, they overinvest, and then they go through this retraction period. But everyone's trying to figure out, do you put something only on streaming service? Do you put it in the cinema and streaming? Do you put it in the cinema first, then streaming? What's the calculus there? No one knows, and it's different for every film. Warner Brothers experimented pretty heavily with day and date. They were doing that during COVID with HBO Max, which really upset some actors. Okay, really upset some actors, and I'll explain in a minute why. Why did day and date releasing upset some actors? Disney did something different. Disney did some films day and date. Some films they put on PVOD, that's premium video on demand. If VOD is video on demand, PVOD is premium video on demand. And then we also have SVOD, subscription video on demand, and AVOD, AVOD, advertising supported video on demand. So you got VOD, PVOD, SVOD, AVOD. Okay. Why not dump every movie on streaming immediately? Why preserve the theatrical window at all? And you, students in JMS 200, we've already established most of y'all are young. You watch everything streaming. Like, what's the big deal, Arsenault? Why are you old people insisting we go sit in a movie theater and watch a movie there? Why can't I just watch it at home? Bigger revenue, okay? Bigger revenue, bigger impact from a successful release. When something makes a big splash in the movie theaters, it generates way more attention than anything that's a big hit on streaming. You hope that that attention will translate into streaming, but you still get bigger impact if you have a big theatrical release. Now, here's where the talent like Denzel Washington and who is that? Scarlett Johansson. She's the widow, Black Widow, right? She got very upset about this. Big actors will oftentimes take a reduced fee. Like maybe they get, I don't even know what the salaries are for movies now. It's ridiculous. 20 million, 30 million, whatever. They might say, hey, don't pay me 20 million, pay me 5 million. I get 1% of the box office proceeds. 1%, 0.5%, something like that. So if the movie's a huge hit and it makes hundreds of millions of dollars, the actor could actually make more money if they do a back end deal. Pay me a little bit up front, but I want a percentage of the back end. That's what it's called. When Warner Brothers, HBO, they're kind of corporate partners there. When Warner Brothers says that we're dumping all our movies on HBO Max, people, I know Denzel Washington, I read this, was really upset. It's like, no one is going to go buy a ticket at the movie theater now to see my movie when it's on HBO Max. I had 1% of the box office. I don't get 1% of HBO Max. So the deal's frustrated. So actors and talent would make more money from a theatrical release. And there's this lingering attitude that cinema is better than mere TV. And I know for most people in JMS 200, you may not think that, but I guarantee that many of the old guard in Hollywood still believe film is something distinct and superior to TV. My wife votes for the Emmys. She used to vote for the Emmys. I don't know if she still does. She definitely votes for the Academy Awards. And I remember her telling me years ago about this debate about what is the distinction between a film and a TV show. She made a show years ago, a movie. It was a movie. Excuse me. See, I did that. She made a movie. It was a movie. It aired on PBS. That's like 15, 16, 17 years ago, something like that. It aired on PBS television. She paid money, she and the other people on the movie paid money to rent a movie theater specifically so they could show their movie so it could be projected on a screen first. Therefore, they could submit it for possible consideration for an Academy Award nomination for Best Documentary. She didn't get an Academy nomination for Best Documentary, but had the film not been projected onto a screen first, had it aired first on PBS, exactly the same product. It's exactly the same product. If it had been aired first on PBS, they couldn't even have submitted it for an Academy Award. I know it's crazy. The distinctions are crazy. So there still is this lingering attitude that cinema is better than mere TV. And Tom Cruise, who I suspect some of y'all are fans of Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is notorious for this attitude. He refused to let that Top Gun Maverick movie, whatever that was called. That is like just a sequel to the first movie. The big action scene is the trench run from Star Wars. I'm sorry, it is the trench run from Star Wars all over again. But Tom Cruise refused to let whatever Top Gun Maverick go to a streaming service, and same with the Mission Impossible movies. He said we're holding them out. Even if we have to spend a lot more money, we're not putting them on streaming services first. That's the star for Mama Cass Elliot. She was in the band, the Mamas and the Papas, kind of a, let's say, plus-sized woman. There's this notorious rumor that she choked to death on a ham sandwich. I heard that when I was a kid. I've been hearing it all my life. Apparently it's not true. Apparently it is not true. Mama Cass Elliot did not choke to death on a ham sandwich. I don't know what to say about this. I think people in the class probably have opinions about this. I think it's weird. Okay, Robert Downey Jr. associated with pretty big Marvel movies. The Marvel movies, if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock lately, the Marvel movies are fading. I think people talk about superhero fatigue. I don't think it's superhero fatigue. I think people are just sick of that franchise and they've kind of worn out a little bit. They need to restart. So Marvel is starting a new cycle of movies. Robert Downey Jr. played Iron Man. I think most of y'all know that. Now he's coming back again to cast the same actor as the villain, Doctor Doom, in the new series of movies. This does seem like something out of a comic book. There's a clone. It's an alternate version of Iron Man. Maybe it's not Iron Man at all. This totally feels like something out of a comic book. And Robert Downey Jr. is getting some ridiculous amount of money. I mean, I'm all for making money. I would like to make more money myself, but really, do human beings need to make this much money for like playing a character, a superhero character? Kind of does stretch the credibility there. Robert Downey Jr. is coming back as Doctor Doom, and there was a series. Okay, this is a little geek out. I geek out for a minute here. Geek out more than usual. They're turning Secret Wars, which is a comic book series. They're turning Secret Wars into a film. A few years ago, had the hot collectible Secret Wars comic, the one with the black Spidey suit. I sold that and two other comics for $200, most I've ever made from selling comics. I think that a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic book, and I can't remember what the third one was. It may have been a Wolverine. It may have been a Wolverine comic book. I sold them collectively for $200. Do I regret selling the Spidey black suit? Maybe a little bit. Had I known they were going to make a Secret Wars movie, I would have kept it, because when movies come out, if you have a comic book that's featured in the movie or this origin for that thing, it kind of goes up. Peacemaker, if I had a Peacemaker comic, the original Charlton Peacemaker comic, it would be worth a lot more. Okay, geeked out enough about that. Next time I do a video about current stuff with the movie industry, I'll see how fans reacted to Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doctor Doom. Biggest hits of 2020 so far, Minecraft movie is the biggest hit. I think I mentioned that already. Yeah, other than Sinners, these are all sequels or remakes. Yeah, other than Sinners, they're all sequels or remakes. We're getting more video game movies. Okay, there was a belief at one time that video games did not make good movies and vice versa, that you couldn't make a video game based on a movie and you couldn't make a movie based on a video game. Curse of video games, right? Minecraft movie, huge hit. That zombie fungus thing, whatever that fungus thing is on HBO, Last of Us, This Is Us, whatever. That one, that thing was a huge hit as well. And then the Minecraft movie. And then there was that Mario Brothers movie as well. We're getting a Five Nights at Freddy's that's based on a video game. Um, Kind of weird. First one was okay. I guess if you play those games, maybe you like it, maybe you're excited. And then we're getting another the Super Mario Brothers movie coming out next April. Okay, for the rest of the video, I'm going to play a chunk from a podcast. It's called The Business. It's on KCRW, that is a public radio station from Los Angeles. This segment is where two experts talk about K-pop demon hunters, and I'll summarize it, and then you can hear more details when they actually talk. But basically, Sony sold a bunch of movies to Netflix during the pandemic for a discount price. This was just one of those movies. They didn't realize that K-pop demon hunters would turn out to be so popular. So now Sony is, I'm sure they're quite upset that they sold something for 20 million, which has the potential to make $1 billion over the length of the franchise lifetime. Yeah, I'm sure they're upset, which reminds me of me selling my Secret Wars Black Spidey comic book, and then later realizing that if I had held on to it and I knew they were making a Secret Wars movie, I could have gotten a lot more. Anyway, enough of me. I'm going to drop this in, and there'll be a question at the end, and then maybe a little bonus video. So there's one question at the end.
I'm joined by my partner in banter, Matt Bellany. Hello, Matt.
Hi there.
So, Matt, Netflix finally has something that I kind of admit I wasn't sure could happen, which is the biggest movie in the history of Netflix, original movie, K-pop Demon Hunters. And it has an interesting history. And I think the question is also, what does it truly mean? So this was born out of a deal with Sony Pictures made during the pandemic, where Tom Rothman, who has no streamer and can't have a streamer because it's owned by Sony, shrewdly actually sold a package of movies to Netflix because theaters were closed. Little did he know, however, that this particular anime style film, this thing about a Korean pop band, they have a double life and hunt demons. And this movie has turned into, as I was saying, a giant phenomenon.
Yeah, and many questions here. First of all, how did Netflix do this? And, it is the Disney playbook. It's not the movie itself that is causing it to be the biggest movie Netflix has ever released. It's the music. The music is extremely catchy, K-pop, very popular. And this movie is being watched and rewatched by younger audiences. So much so that Netflix put it in theaters last weekend for a 2-day stunt, and it got to almost $20 million in theaters without having AMC theaters show the film.
That's huge.
That, to me, is the biggest flex here. It's the first time that Netflix can say that they created a theatrical style phenomenon in the movie space without having gone to theaters.
Yes.
They are likely going to do sequels and spin-offs and a tour maybe and live event stuff. And, this is going to be a 10 to 15 year franchise, I think, for Netflix. The problem here is for Sony. Because Tom Rothman sold off this movie, the money paid by Netflix to Sony was only about $20 million. This was a $100 million movie. So Sony makes $20 million on this movie. Netflix now has a $1 billion property, and the only rights that Sony has is the right to produce the sequels and spin-offs.
Yes, so this has to be painful.
Yes. Unless it renegotiates the deal, it does not have the right to put those sequels in theaters, and Sony would really like a theatrical franchise. They need these franchises so badly. They had such a terrible summer. They had Karate Kid and 28 Years Later, and that was kind of it. It would have been such a shot in the arm for Sony to have this movie.
I mean, we don't know it would have been a hit in theaters. I would tend to guess yes. Maybe, I mean, who knows what kind of money it could have done. I don't know if Sony, because they get the 20 million and they must be like, why did we not put in some provision that if it's a huge hit, we get something extra? Can they twist Netflix's arm or squeeze Netflix on making a sequel?
Yeah, and they're currently in negotiations for the sequel. And, I'm sure Sony is saying, hey, guys, what about theaters here? But as we know, Ted Sarandos, the co-CEO, he is pretty averse to theaters. He was fine doing it as a 2-day stunt once they had extracted all the value on the service. But if you're Ted Sarandos, why would you put this in theaters? You don't necessarily need the extra money, and you want people to be trained to go to Netflix for Netflix movies. That's what he wants. And I don't see the sequels getting theaters on this, much to the chagrin of Sony.
If they can't convince Netflix, they could at least say, we need a whole lot of money. Or is that deal already made?
No, the deal's already made. So they would have to renegotiate. Now, often in success, these companies will almost as a courtesy renegotiate. And as, to get additional concessions, maybe they want more out of them. Maybe they want something with the talent. They will often renegotiate, but there's no obligation to renegotiate.
Yes. Well, I will say I don't know that we can blame Tom Rothman. I mean, he was in the depths of a pandemic. He was in the depths of the pandemic when he made the deal. You would have to be psychic, I think, to see a phenomenon like this coming. I mean, this is one of those, yes, it's popular, but is this anime type thing really going to be that big of a hit? I do wonder, though, going forward, I think the Hollywood had reached this consensus that you can't really launch cultural phenomena type things on a streamer. And this is why people were mad at Bob Chapek at Disney for putting so many animated films on the streamer. And people said that was bad for the movies and trained audiences not to go to theaters. Are we all going to rethink this now?
I'm not sure. I mean, as big as this property is, it still a little bit seems like a TV phenomenon. I think Sony could have done okay with it if they had marketed it correctly and if they had emphasized the music, but I don't think it would have become the phenomenon that it is until it appeared on Netflix. And remember, Sony's output deal is with Netflix, so even if it was in theaters, it would have eventually gone to Netflix where it would probably be huge. But then if that had happened, Sony would have had the right to do the sequels in theaters, and they don't have that right. One thing I will note about the original deal that Rothman did, we should also mention that this was not the only movie in that deal. There were several other movies that were part of that deal that did not become huge hits. There was a Lady Chatterley's Lover remake that came and went.
No.
And Sony got paid on that movie as well. So it was a larger deal that did benefit Sony. It's just that it happened to produce this crazy outsized hit that I think it would lead Rothman to say he wouldn't do this deal in hindsight.
And I can just see Ted in the next meeting with, some A-list director saying, look at K-pop Demon Hunter to say your film could be huge on my service. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
That's Matt Bellany. He and I are partners at Puck News.
KCRW sponsors include HBO Max, presenting the HBO...
Okay, later, same day, earlier, I was walking around Hollywood Boulevard. This is the end of the video lecture for stuff about movies, current stuff about movies. The dog update. The dog is now with my wife, Sinan. They are driving back from LA to San Diego. Later, I'm driving ahead. She's been out of the country, right? She's been out of the country for 2 weeks. There's not a lot of food at home. So I'm stopping in Artesia to get some food. Artesia, if you don't know, south of LA, that's where you get Desi Khana. Desi means from the homeland, I think, South Asian food. Mostly when I think Indian food, Desi would mean like South Asian, like it's our food. Indian, Pakistani, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, all that kind of cuisine you could probably get here in Artesia, but there's a difference between Pakistani food and Indian food. A little bit of different. Spices are a little bit different. They eat a lot more beef in Pakistani food. They don't eat beef at all, in Hindu Khana. Anyway, so this is Pakistani food, this place, this grocery store. When my wife found it, my wife is Pakistani, when she found it, she's like, this is serious gutter ka khana. This is like home food. She's like, this is serious gutter ka khana. So I'm gonna get some stuff in here and then be home you're done with the video lecture. And I might try and record myself trying to talk, and get a shot at the food at the end. But that's bonus. If you answer the question, you're done. You want to leave? Leave if you don't care about such interesting things in the world. Leave. If you want to stick around, stick around. My wife sent me here to get with a BB Pakistani, right? Pakistani. You have goat biryani? Egg goat biryani. What's the difference between the biryani and the pulao?
Spices. The pulao would be very mild. But it's good.
Give her the pulao. Okay. You have chicken karai?
Yeah.
Go order. And that's with chawal, right?
Sure.
Chicken karai, you eat that with chawal or
No,
not?
no. That's a kadai.
Do you eat it with chawal or not?
You can eat it with the chow and naan as well.
What do most people, what is the normal for
Naan.
chicken? Okay, give me naan and one extra naan as well. Like team naan, okay?
Naan, okay.
And yeah, maybe that's, so what do I have? The mutton pulao.
Chicken kadai and 3 naan.
Maybe I should get something else. Whatever sabzi do you have?
Okra.
Bindi?
Bindi. Dal. Bindi.
Give me the palak paneer.
Okay. Yes, sir?
That's it. That's it. Do you have chai?
Yeah. How many?
Just one, 8 for right here. The rest I'll take to go. How long will it take? 10.
15.
100.
Yeah. Can I have it?
Noah.
Okay.